Wallabies bolters for 2023, folks. Eddie Jones being in charge of the Wallabies in a Rugby World Cup year has put a bit of a cat among the pigeons. I feel like a fair few people have come out and said, I'm going to put a cheeky $5 on the Wallabies for the World Cup just because of the Eddie Jones factor and belief that he might be able to get a bit more out of the Wallabies squad than perhaps his predecessor did. We're going to pick 5 bolters, as in kind of uncapped guys who could potentially sneak their way into the Wallabies squad ahead of the World Cup. And as always, you guys can let us know your thoughts. I should say for this one, I've written up a piece for Planet Rugby as well, so check that out down in the description. There's plenty of good rugby content over there. First guy I'm going to go with comes from the Tars, and this is in no particular order, is old Max Jorgensen. He's only 18 years old, but he has absolutely looked the business for the Tars this season. I think they've played him once on the wing, but largely at fullback. I'm basing this, if I rattle off any stats at you, by the way, stats current as of round 13. We are now 14 rounds in, but I haven't updated the stats for the most recent round yet. But you get the idea. In these opening kind of 14 rounds, he's managed to bag 4 tries and 4 try assists as well. I don't know if you guys have seen the game where he plays against the Fijian Drua, but if you haven't seen it, it's well worth a look at that highlights package because he was just on absolute fire with his offloads. He clocks through a bunch of run meters. He's beaten a bunch of tackles. Like 18 defenders beaten across the course of the season is not phenomenally high, but he does seem to have a really good all-round skill set. And his ability to play fullback or wing could prove to be a factor kind of in his consideration when heading into a World Cup. He was included in Eddie Jones's initial Wallabies kind of training squad. So for Max Jorgensen to potentially make a Wallabies appearance this season, I would say like his chances are kind of medium to good. I wouldn't say he's a particularly low chance guy, but we'll see. 18 years old, he's still got heaps of development to do. Another guy I've gone with this time from the Reds and a forward rather than a back is hooker Matt Fassler. Now he's another one who made Eddie Jones's training squad, and it's a weird one with hooker because I feel like ever since Stephen Moore retired, they haven't really had one guy who's taken that position by the kind of scruff of the neck and made that jersey their own. They've had Paenga Mosa, they've had Fainga'a, they've had Parecki. There's been more. Those are just the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. But there's been a bunch of guys, Latu as well, bunch of guys who've played hooker for the Wallabies, but nobody really yet to kind of make that position their own. And the fact that Fassler was also in the Wallabies training squad means he is a potential guy in the mix. 24 years old, so certainly another one kind of at the right part of his career to be on an upwards trajectory in terms of, strength and conditioning and experience. He's only getting better at that age. He's the top Aussie hooker for run meters. He's bagged 6 tries. He's gotten a bunch of defenders beaten, won a few turnovers, solid defense. And the Reds lineout is the second best in Super Rugby. So for a hooker, he's got a lot of parts of his game going well. And as I said, because he is in Eddie Jones's training squad, again, I would put his chances certainly medium to pretty good for old Matt Fassler. But we will have to wait and see. Still a lot of rugby to be played between now and the World Cup. Another guy who is, I think, been performing pretty well, but not one of Eddie Jones's kind of chosen ones thus far, is the Brumby Corey Toole. Now, I don't have a Sevens background. Do you call it that? I don't watch much Sevens. So I don't really have the kind of insights into which guys have stepped across from Sevens and are kind of showing that same skill set in 15s. But as far as I'm aware, our man Corey Toole has a pretty good background in Sevens. Well, all I know is, from what we've seen of him for the Brumbies thus far, he's been on fire. Now, the Wallabies have got tons of guys for the outside back, so it's going to be a competitive one. I certainly think he's a bit of a longer shot. As of round 13, he scored 7 tries. So he's on a bit of a good try scoring run. I think he's bagged a couple of multi-try games, and I believe he got one last night as well against the Chiefs. So I think he's up to 8 this season. He's the top Aussie winger for run meters. He's averaging 10 meters a carry, which is bloody good numbers. He's the top Aussie guy for clean breaks. His defensive stats aren't the flashiest, and that may be one that kind of lets him down. 41 as of round 13 in tackles attempted, 22 missed. So he's kind of hovering around that 2/3 mark, which is, again, not that bad. Like, a lot of the outside backs are slightly higher than that or in that vicinity as well. It's not a kind of position known for kind of 80-90% tackling rates. But, yeah, it's maybe an area of concern, but he's had a couple of try assists, a couple of turnovers, one. And as I said, maybe crucially, not in the training squad thus far. So I think he is certainly a long shot, but I'm just saying he's been in good form. The numbers don't lie. He's been playing a good game for the Brumbies. Whether that's enough to give him a look in, we'll have to wait and see. As I said, it's pretty competitive. Like with Nawani Tawase kind of getting a taste of it at the end of last year and taking to the international game like a duck to water. Pecking order gets a bit longer, but we kind of have to wait and see. Another guy from the training squad who I think is probably the highest chance of the lot of them to get in is old Carter Gordon. 22 years old, running the ship for the Rebels, which is a team not doing that well this year, right? I know they had a pretty good win over the Force as I record this video. They put them to the sword, but they're still a team realistically at the bottom of the table. And yet, as of round 13, Carter Gordon's clocked through 7 try assists, which was first equal. He had 11 clean breaks, which is the most of any guy playing 10. He's had 680 odd run meters, which was the most of any guy playing 10. 6 tries, like in terms of just being able to run and distribute, like genuinely that kind of all-round package, multi-threat player. He seems to be a real option for the Wallabies. So the fact that he was in the training squad makes you think that Eddie likes the look of him. And as I said, I reckon he's pretty much a shoo-in, but with Eddie, you never know. It can be a bit of smoke and mirrors, but so far, man, the guy has been, he's been on fire, as I said, and the 10 jersey is another one that's never really been answered since Bernard Foley's leaving. Lolasio's had a chance, but neither coach seems convinced. Ben Donaldson's had a wee crack at it, very briefly. He's been in the Wallabies squad, training squad with Eddie Jones as well, so he's another potential option. You know, they've had Quaid, so they've had Bernard Foley come back. It's one that's been a bit of a revolving door as well. But maybe going forward at 22 years old, maybe Carter Gordon's the answer. A lot of pressure for him, but we'll see. He's certainly shown the business at Super Rugby level. And the last one is a Western Force player, so you can pretty much write this off as kind of pie in the sky, because we all know, sadly for the Force, that they tend not to get many guys in the Wallaby squad. I think it's only Tom Robertson who made I think a couple of their guys were injured, but I think it was only Tom Robertson of the fit guys who made the Wallabies training squad. Jeremy Williams, the lock. I don't think he's above a guy like Ryan Smith from the Reds in the pecking order for this, but stats-wise, you guys know me, I love a stat. He's doing some business. Now, he's a little bit smaller than Ryan Smith. He's a couple of centimetres shorter, a few kilos lighter, and Eddie's probably going to want some big bodies in the second row. But man, as a genuine ball-carrying lock, if you partner him up with a guy like Will Skelton, I reckon he could do some damage. He's still 6'6" and like 112 kilos, so he's not exactly a small fry. But he's like the second lock for defenders beaten. He's clocked up a couple of 100 run meters. He's bagged a couple of tries. He's good in the air. 6 line-out steals, I think it was, and he's the second guy for line-out wins behind Jed Holloway. So he's athletic, man. He gets through some real work, ball in hand. I don't know. I reckon he could be a good option, but at only 22, he's another one who's still got a bit of development to do. And as I said, playing for the wrong team. Sadly, the Western Force guys just don't seem to get picked. Fergus Lee Warner, because this guy can play as, I believe, a bit of loose forward as well. Fergus Lee Warner was kind of famously the guy that I would be cursing the Wallabies management. He never got a crack despite the fact that they had like Ned Hannigan playing for the Wallabies. Again, different players, but I thought Fergus was doing the business. Jeremy Williams seems to be doing the business for the Force this year, but probably the longest shot of the lot. But there you go, folks. 5 potential Wallaby bolters. there's certainly some other guys, like if you look at the training squad, the guys like Josh Fluke, I mentioned Ryan Smith, there's a bunch of other guys who are also, potential guys to get their hands on a Wallabies cap as of 2023. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Who else do you reckon might make it? Anybody outside the training squad who you think is a potential chance, or maybe is one Eddie should be keeping an eye on? Potentially one of the overseas guys as well. You guys let us know your thoughts. Check out the Planet Rugby article as well. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Together.